What up, folks, and welcome to the Kyber Culture, episode 112. Today we're talking about episodes 1 through 5 of The Last of Us. Today's Friday, the Friday before the Super Bowl, February 10th? And a very special Last of Us episode, because they normally drop on Sunday, but it dropped on Friday because they don't want to compete with the Super Bowl. So we're fresh off episode 5, stoked to get into it. I'm your host, Joe L, if you will.
Joe L.
And joining me today is the one and only Aaron Jolson. Nice, love that. We always crush it with the names. We're here doing a little mid-season recap, if you will, for The Last of Us. So stick around. Make sure to follow the Kyber Culture on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, all our socials, Twitter. We're pretty much everywhere. Check the links in the description. If you like what you're listening to, please consider subscribing and leaving a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd really appreciate it. Leave us those 5 stars, folks. 5 stars only. We had one person. I keep on looking at our ratings, and there's always just one person that left us 1 star and even didn't leave a written review. I think we talked about this like a long ass time ago, but you're a coward. Anyways, yeah, leave us 5 stars. So yeah, we'd really appreciate that. But let's just kind of jump right into it. Just a couple of details before we start talking about the first 5 episodes. Last of Us coming to PC, the video game. I've been playing it. It's phenomenal. I've been playing the remastered version on PS5. But it's coming to PC March 28th. Aaron, since you've seen the first 5 episodes of the show, do you think you'll be tapping into the game when it comes to PC?
I'm very interested, yeah. Obviously, it's a very story-based game. Like, I know nothing about it. Like, I've seen, like, very little gameplay on it. But since it seems to be such a story-driven game, like, how all the combat's going to work. And I'll save this, but especially getting to episode 5, like, what the bosses are going to be like. Yeah, I don't know. Like, how open of world is it? How linear is it? But I can definitely see how it's probably a mix of, like, really good action, really good cinematics, really good story. But yeah, definitely interested.
And yeah, we'll get into it too. But yeah, no, since I've been playing the game, I will be able to speak to like major differences or like stuff that's straight from the game. I mean, I'm sure you've heard before how much they do like pretty much a 1-to-1. I feel like I say rip and that's a negative thing. I just think it's awesome that they're doing a 1-to-1 adaptation of certain cutscenes from the game. It's amazing. If you want to play it, let me know. Well, maybe we can talk about the game sometime in the future. But yeah, so Last of Us coming to PC. Anybody that has a PC that listens to us, be on the lookout for that. Something else I want to talk about is the viewership, which with The Last of Us, because the viewership numbers are absolute insanity for this. As far as like episodes 1 through 4 are concerned, it kept on grabbing new viewers with each episode, which never happens. And I think that I briefly mentioned it on a pod maybe a couple episodes ago, but between episodes 1 and 2, there was like a uptick of like 20% more viewers between episodes 1 and 2, but it's like I keep saying, it keeps gradually increasing. And we just watched episode 5 today, so I'm not sure what the numbers are here. I imagine they will be slightly lower. Like this will be the first time that like it drops in viewership, mostly because like it's a Friday night. I don't know how many people are going to be watching TV on a Friday evening. Like I imagine most people are out at dinner or whatever the fuck. So we'll see. But I saw this crazy stat between episodes 1 through 4, like between the premiere and episode 4, there was an increase of like 60% in viewership numbers. Episode 1 raked in 4.7 million viewers, and episode 4 raked in 7.5 million. And like I said, that doesn't happen ever. Like even when you're watching movies or some shit, opening weekend is like the weekend for like box office numbers and shit, and then the following week it drops off like crazy. So really curious about the numbers for episode 5. We'll see how it goes. But I want to ask you this, kind of like a random sidebar. Like why do you think that is? Like what do you think it is about The Last of Us that keeps bringing people to the show?
Word of mouth, social media. I think that'd be the primary driver. Because that's kind of honestly how it was for me. Like I watched the first episode and I was like, okay, all right. Yeah. I watched the second episode. I was like, all right, it's getting better. Watched the third episode. I was like, oh my fucking God. Okay. I think it's word of mouth because there's like a general consensus that There's always outliers, but the show does, like, it starts off really well and gets better as it goes. And also, I think there's probably like a section of people that are like, love the game, but were maybe very skeptical of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, oh, probably the majority of those people were basically saying like, oh shit, you know, this is actually like pretty well done. You know, like even if they thought it was like average, like they still were like, oh yeah, like I'm going to continue to watch it. And then those people that play the game and like the show too, like it's just like kind of like a snowball effect.
I think too, like I think Pedro Pascal is an obvious draw.
Mm-hmm.
He's huge right now. I think a draw as well as the fact that it's on HBO. Any type of show, if they put like enough marketing behind it, I feel like HBO is just like it's premiere TV. Like just if you just slap the HBO brand on it, it's like, oh yeah, people will be like, yeah, I'm gonna give it a chance. Compared to like the other like streaming services, I feel like especially Disney Plus is gonna be a hard draw. Amazon, Hulu, whatever the fuck. I feel like HBO has always been like the top dog.
Just drop bangers.
Yeah. But it is shocking to me though, just because like when people hear something is adapted from a video game, and I've heard this in person, you know, I've heard people talk about the show just out and about. Yeah, no, I've been watching The Last of Us. I really liked it. And I'm like, and then they would say something like, but I heard like at first I heard it was based off a video game, and I was like, I was like, well, like, I'm glad you're enjoying it now.
Yeah, video game adaptations have a poor reputation. They
really do. They really
do. 100%.
But I'm glad this is getting done well. So yeah, I love really enjoying Last of Us so far and enjoying the game as well. Before we get into actually talking about the first 5 episodes, let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. All right, and we're back. So let's get into these 5 episodes. So The Last of Us by Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin. Now, I think this is where a lot of video game adaptations kind of get lost, because Neil Druckmann is the main guy, but behind the 2 games. And I feel like there are a lot of video game adaptations that don't include like the original developers, and that's why it gets so muddled and like they don't end up as well. And then Craig Mazin, I don't know if you've ever seen Chernobyl, Aaron, but it's probably one of the craziest HBO original series that's there, and that was from him. So I figured like when I first heard about this show, like I first heard about The Last of Us like being in development and stuff without writers or anything attached to it, and I was like, well, here we go again with like another video game adaptation, you know? But then they started to say like, oh, Neil Druckmann is involved and so is Craig Mazin. And I was like, okay, well, there's no way this fails. And then they started adding like Pedro Pascal, started casting all these people. I was like, okay, this is going to be great. You know?
Adding up.
But yeah, so the show itself, like I just mentioned, stars Pedro Pascal as Joel, Bella Ramsey as Ellie. We love to see a couple of Game of Thrones alumni here. Gabriel Luna as Joel's brother Tommy, Nick Offerman as Bill, Merle Dandridge as Marlene. Marlene in the show is portrayed by the same actress in the video game, which I thought was pretty cool. A couple of the game actors are in the show. Jeffrey Price as Perry, who we saw in episodes 4 and 5. In the game, he was Tommy. Ashley Johnson as Anna Williams. This is a slight spoiler, not really, but in the game, Ashley Johnson was Ellie. She voiced Ellie and did all the mocap and stuff. In the show, we haven't seen her yet, but she's going to be, I think it's Anna Williams is her name, who is Ellie's mom. Troy Baker as James, who is Joel in the game. James is going to be a part of David's group. David is someone we have yet to see. But yeah, so I would say those are like the main cast members of this. But yeah, so let's just start talking about the show. Let's just go episode by episode. So let's go with the premiere. Such a long premiere, 80-minute premiere. Fucking long-ass episode of TV. Titled When You're Lost in the Darkness. Aaron, so I've talked about this first episode on another podcast before, but I want to get your initial thoughts on this. So I think it's good to start with you because you never played the game. So what did you think about episode 1?
I think this was a banger pilot. Considering everything that I knew or didn't know going into this show, and not having played the game, and just what I expected and what I didn't expect, for me, it was almost perfect. And I think I was in like the right mindset when I was watching the show. And I was texting you about this a little, like just briefly when I watched the intro. I was like just playing, like I'm a huge, like me and like horror genre, the horror genre, like we don't mesh well. Like I'm kind of a little bitch when it comes to horror and fear and that kind of stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just gonna say that straight up. But I was texting you and I was basically saying like, dude, I just played Phasmophobia, played 2 rounds of that, got in bed, watched the pilot to Last of Us, and I was just like already in this kind of like desolate kind of mood. So I think I ironically like put myself there, and it just happened to work. But I think this was absolutely amazing. I think it laid the groundwork for the world that we're journeying through very well. I think it explained enough of like what happened. How did we get to this world? 80 minutes. Yes, it's long, but I think they use the time very well to like just lay the groundwork for everything. But yeah, no, I love the whole, because I feel like in the zombie genre, you know, whether it's like a virus or like a parasite, we never actually like see the virus or whatever it is looks like. Like Walking Dead, we don't really get that. It's just like, oh, everybody's zombies, right? But in this, they kind of like really focus more in on like, okay, it's a fungus. Like, what does the fungus actually look like? Like, you're actually like seeing it take over people's bodies. You're, you know, seeing it come out of their mouths. Like I like that element of the beginning of this episode. I think it's straying away from that a little bit, like in terms of just like, all right, we know what it looks like. You don't need to like plant it everywhere as much. I feel like when I was watching the pilot, I was like, okay, when is the thing going to happen? When is the moment going to happen? Like, when is shit just going to go fucking south? And man, it's just, they did a really good job of, if you were to imagine yourself in that situation, I feel like they did a really good job of putting that on screen. Like, what would it look like in your everyday life, right? And oh man, I'm getting goosebumps watching when shit does go south. The planes crashing, just like green explosions going off. You're panicking with what's happening on scene. I mean, this is my experience. It's fucking insane. And I think I wish there was like a little bit more. This is the one thing. This is my one thing about the pilot that I wish they did differently. I wish there was a little bit more development between Pedro Pascal or Joel and his daughter. I wish there was a little bit more emotional connection with that, because that obviously is a huge character. It's almost a flaw, or just like aspect, I guess, if I don't want to be negative about it, that carries throughout the first 5 episodes. But I still think there was enough of it. How was it? The whole pancakes thing, like, and how that reoccurs in like the second episode. Like, you know, there's like definitely some ties in like the relationship between him and his daughter. But I feel like I wish it was a little bit more cemented. And fuck, man, like the scene between the military when it's Joel and his daughter facing off with one of the army soldiers, right? Like Tommy's not there at that moment, right? That whole thing, time felt like it went on so slow. I was like, what the fuck is going to happen here? I mean, I had an idea of what was going to happen, but it's just so brutal to think about this being any of this being a possibility. You telling me like this army soldier is out here trying to help? Like, they're the government. They're supposed to be helping us. Is about to fucking just kill innocent people that like aren't infected?
That's the nature of the Last of Us world, which is nuts.
It's a brutal fucking world, man. And it's
I want to ask you this real quick. Since the episode kind of opens up with Joel's daughter, did you think that we were going to pretty much have her throughout the series?
Not at all.
You were like, yeah, no, she's not making it.
She's gone. Yeah, I definitely knew Joel's daughter was done. Tragic the way a father like trying to put pressure on like this gaping wound in your abdomen and your daughter's abdomen is like, it's gruesome to fucking watch, but it's done really well. And yeah, just the fight for life and just like everything, like the fact that everything pretty much happens like the night, air quote, the night, it's all at night, it just adds like so much more of like a holy fuck, like this shit is insane. Cause you see like all the cities just like lighting up with, you know, emergency lights and like explosions and just fucking fire. And that alone hooked me in. I was like, all right, yeah, I'm here for the ride. What did you think? I
think I'm just going to touch on just major differences. I pretty much agree with everything you said about everything about the episode. I think I just want to tell you and maybe possibly tell people who are listening to this that haven't played the game pretty much what they added, stuff like that. So I'm going to start with the talk show scene. this is the way the episode opens up. It's like a talk show. There's no cutscene for this in the game at all. This is completely new. I really love this. This opening scene, I think, is really necessary for people that haven't played the video game, just to get you roped into the world. Like for me personally, I'm pretty tapped out on the whole genre of zombies. But the thing that makes this fresh is that the science of the zombies and how they exist in this world is real. Cordyceps is a real thing. You can look up like cordyceps and ants or something, and it is the most haunting shit ever.
Yeah, my sister has a major in mycology. Like she was like, oh yeah, cordyceps, yeah. No, then she explained the whole ants thing, and I was like,
no, it's totally That's what Neil Druckmann said, is that he wanted to base it like off real science, and I was just like, dude, this is terrifying. Like, and that's what kind of like revitalizes the whole like zombie thing about it, because I'm not gonna say like we're all gonna die someday, but like the guy definitely tosses out like, oh, what if the world got a little warmer? It's like the whole global warming thing. I'm like, yeah, no, I mean, come on. It's right there. But yeah, so the opening scene just absolutely haunting. And like right before it cuts to the intro, he's like, the guy's like, so what do we do? Like, what happens if the world does get warmer and the cordyceps is able to evolve? He's like, well, we lose. Like it's over. Mm-hmm. That I love that. I love that. The opening scenes, like we'll talk about the openings for episode 2, which is even like equally as daunting. I will say this, because you did mention how you did want a more fleshed out relationship between Joel and his daughter. Here's another major difference here. Like after that talk show scene, we then move into spending time with Joel's daughter and kind of like a day in the life. We don't get any of that in the video game. That's also a new addition.
Oh, interesting.
Pretty much in the game, it starts out, it's already nighttime. It was Joel's birthday. They do the whole like, oh, can you get a birthday cake because it's your birthday? She fixes his watch, but then Joel leaves, and then his daughter falls asleep, and then she wakes up in the middle of the night, and you start the game running around the house as Joel's daughter. Then the outbreak happens, and then all that stuff. But everything that we saw on the show of her like going to school or like talking to her neighbors, we didn't get any of that stuff. And like everything's like all sunny, bright, and happy. I'm like, damn, this is cold. Like how can you guys do this? Like this is literally just for like just emotional damage. That's why you guys added this to the show.
Goes from real like, sunny, bright, happy to dark and fucked like real quick.
Yeah. So yeah, in the game we also don't get a lot of time with Joel and his daughter. So that's very accurate. But when the outbreak actually does happen, it's pretty much a shot-for-shot remake, and I'm sure you've seen clips of this online. It's a shot-for-shot remake, down to them driving around in the truck. We get that in game. Like you get to when it's when you're playing from the character's point of view, you can kind of like move around the camera sight, you know, and you kind of just like spinning around. Everything in this episode is from his daughter's point of view, just looking at everything, you know. And that's what you literally do in the game. You just like move around and look at what's going on around you. Like the house that's on fire, that's in the game.
So fucking like, terrifying, man.
The people that they drive by asking for help, they actually like they added that in there as well. It's like, no, like someone else will come by. Like, you know, Joel in the game says that and Joel in the show says that. So
was there the national emergency warning on the TV in the game too?
Like, are you talking about like earlier in the episode when they're talking about like Jakarta and stuff?
Yeah.
No, that's not in the game.
Okay.
So yeah, but then they drive into the town. There's some zombies. The plane crashes, and then the whole thing with the army happens. Both very sad in game and in the show. But okay, so that's the opening. Then we move on to the episode. It's like 20 years later, huge time jump. It's 2023. Good Lord, it's 2023.
Yeah.
And pretty much a lot of this stuff is also added in. Like this is like all original stuff. We didn't get this kid in the beginning where he it's like a random kid roaming around. This scene was very sad to me because it was like a little kid. They find out he's infected. Like they give him like a little shot or something, and it's pretty much just to put him down. Like we flash forward to Joel. Like this is another heartbreaking part of the episode is when the lady sees that it's a child. Like she's like, hey, I can't pick up this body and just toss it into the fire. she asked Joel to do it, and he's like, oh well, like he does it no problem. And that's like one of the like main things about Joel's character that I think they're nailing so well, is that right at this point in time, like how like numb he is as a human being.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, this is a kid, but like I'll take care of it. I can just toss him into the fire or whatever. I thought that was very good. Well, what'd you think about the episode after the opening? Like after we flash forward 20 years?
It's I think it's a pretty good representation of like what civilization would be like, or like glimpses of what civilization is like what's necessary, like what's important to everybody, at least within this QZ, right? Where are they? Are they in Boston? No, it's not Boston. It's Boston.
It's Boston.
Like in this QZ, which compared to other QZs that we go to seems a little bit more civilized, but like what life is like, what's important to people, what's valuable, what's not in this like a post-apocalyptic world.
Joel's still slinging drugs. Obviously,
still slinging
that's important.
drugs. He got them perks. He got that homemade fucking bourbon. Like he got them cigarettes. Like fuck, bro.
Dude, that's a bottle of Jefferson's Reserve though, for sure.
100%. I mean, we're in Boston. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got to be Jefferson's. I think it was a good choice to go from like, here's what happens in 80 minutes for the first episode, and then we just go straight into like, all right, what's the world like now in this part of the United States? You get a lot more of that cold-heartedness, and then like you get introduced to Ellie, like the second main protagonist. You get introduced to like basically like resistance movement against this like fascist. It's called Fedra.
Yeah.
Fedra. Totalitarianism there, which I think it would be very likely in a scenario like this in the real world, where you have people basically scrambling to try to find some sort of structure. Some people find ways to power much quicker than others. Those people find other people within that power structure, and it's probably corrupt when people are easily taken advantage of in a broken society. Here's my question. I never really understood this. Who is Tess in her relationship to Joel? Are they just lovers, like partners, like during this time, or?
So in the show, it kind of seems like it's more like they have like a romantic partnership almost.
Yeah.
But in the game, it's more so like they're like partners.
Business. It's like business partners.
We're both just trying to survive, and we can both help each other out. But in the show, it kind of seems like there was more going on there. So yeah. That's Tess.
But no, I felt it was a good transition. But what about you?
Yeah, no, I really liked the second part of this episode. Pretty much everything you said, but in addition, like they do another scene ripped straight from the game. There's a scene where Tess is trying to figure out like a proper route to sneak out of the QZ, and then it's just Joel and Ellie spending time in the apartment, and it's like line for line. Ellie's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Killing time." You know, he's just like taking a nap on the couch. That's a scene straight from the game. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed this back half of the episode. I like the way it ended too. They find out, or Marlene knows this, but pretty much what happens here is that the reason why Ellie is so important is because she got bit by a clicker or a zombie or whatever, and she didn't turn. So there's something about Ellie, like something in her, like in her DNA or whatever, that makes her immune, that doesn't make her turn. And so that's like the mission where we start out. That's the mission that Marlene puts on Tess and Joel. Marlene wants them to take her to like a hospital where they can try to start like working up a vaccine or something. Yeah. They sneak out of the QZ. They almost got caught by the guy that Joel sold perks to, but they get into a little scramble. And this is where actually Joel and Tess find out that Ellie is infected, but she doesn't turn. But they continue with the mission. I really liked, because when I watched the first episode, I hadn't beaten the first game yet. And when they're running away from the QZ, it's kind of like that rain and lightning or whatever, and we see two buildings kind of collapse on each other. And that was like the last shot of the episode. And then like after I had watched the first episode, I came home and I flipped on the PS5. Me as Joel, I was standing at the very bottom of those two buildings.
Damn.
And I was like, yes, this is perfect. I have time to get ahead of the story.
Nice.
That's how episode 1 ends. Very long episode, very good episode. I thought it was a solid premiere. A lot of stuff for video game fans, a lot of stuff for folks that haven't played the game. But even as a video game player, like I'd known a lot of the stuff that was going to happen in episode 1. Given the context of everything, it was just so well done that I was just like, fuck, that still like fucking stings.
And I will say this too. I think Ellie being like immune to the whole, like the infection was pretty predictable, but I don't think that takes anything away from the actual like premise or plot of the story.
My last thing on episode 1, I believe they're leaving out. So in this, you know, they have tendrils coming out of their mouth and stuff. That's like one of the main things of like infection. But in the game, there are places that are so badly infected, like with just like mushrooms growing everywhere, that like they're like they call them spores. Your character has to wear a gas mask while you're running through this area.
It's like in the air.
Yeah, it's like in the air. If you breathe it in, you're fucked. They're not doing spores in the show. That's what I think that's what one of the creators said. I'm like, I think I kind of would have liked spores because that would raise like the stakes and shit. Go ahead.
They do introduce something similar in episode 2. Like it's similar, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about it. But yeah, that's all I have on episode 1. Let's move on to episode 2, titled Infected. What'd you think?
I'm just going to go straight into it, man. I mean, the highlight, but also the saddest part of the episode. I mean, Tess, it's so sad. And it almost didn't happen. It was one flick of the lighter as she was, oh God. And just watching like the makeout and infection makeout is just like, oh God.
Yeah. The infection makeout's kind of wild. It's kind of disgusting. It's so gross. It's so gross.
God. It's like, it's so weird too. Cause it's like nature doing its thing in this world, but it's also so fucking weird at the same time. Yeah.
Well, while we're on it, before we move on, this is, I think this is the first major change from the game to the show, and I hope you don't mind that I'm kind of spoiling the game for you.
No, I don't mind at all.
Yeah, so this is the first major difference, that final scene. I mean, there's some parts that are shot for shot. It's like Tess and Joel arguing back and forth, and then like Tess does get bit in the game. The lines that are first coming to mind is like when she shows, like she's like, Joel, like look at this, and like shows Ellie's arm and is like, this is for real, Joel. Like you need to complete this mission or whatever. But the main difference here is that she does not face off with a bunch of clickers in the game. In the game, they're getting chased by a bunch of Fedra agents, and she's facing off with the military pretty much. She's like holding off the military and everything. This change, like none of the changes bother me at all. I'll just say that right now. Like we hadn't really gotten like why are the clickers so dangerous? You know, we haven't really gotten that yet. And the fact that they tossed in the fact that it's like, oh, it's like a hive mind. Once you make a movement here, you attract the rest of them. That's something that they talked about a lot in this episode. And I thought that was cool that they included that. My only thing was that, like, when I first watched this episode, I was thinking in my head, I was like, okay, well, not only are the infected a threat, but the humans that aren't infected are just as much of a threat as the zombies are.
Yeah,
you know,
you're fighting like a two-sided battle.
Yeah, if not worse, like a worse threat. You know, so I was like, okay, well, like we haven't seen much of like just like humans versus other humans all that much, and I was like, okay, like when are they gonna do that? I knew it was coming in the future, but you know, but yeah. So that was like,
yeah, no, I mean, I could see that because I mean, like the whole hive mind thing, the whole infection, like there's one goal and one goal only. You know, it's very objective. It's very straightforward, but humans are corrupt and do stupid shit and backstab people, and you never know who to trust, right? This is the episode where they go into, so they, instead of going straight through like where the two buildings are, they take the side route, right? And they go to the stateroom. There's I shouldn't say a lot of, there's a good amount of character development here, I think, between Ellie and Joel, because it's very like, I'm not doing this for you, kid. Like I'm doing this because I need this battery. Like we need this battery. I'm assuming they need the battery so they can get it into a car so they can go to Wyoming to find Tommy. But there, you get your first glimpses of Joel looking at Ellie as a kid and innocent and not just a bag. Not a lot of breakdown from Joel, but enough. I think this is where I was talking about in episode 1, where was this the pancake reference, where the pancake reference came back?
Not yet.
But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, I think when you spend enough time around people that you necessarily don't want to spend time around, you kind of start to like break down a little bit. Like even if you have like this hard outer shell like Joel, I mean, and Ellie's just a kid. Like she's just trying to be a kid, you know, cracking jokes. Like, and I'm not gonna lie, at first, Ellie's like the actress that played Ellie, like her acting wasn't selling me that hard. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was a little
plucky.
I mean, yeah, but then
it's just like another hard ass kid.
But as the show goes on, I'm like, okay, you know, this actually works really well. Like the dynamic really starts to kind of form between the two. What else? What else happens in the episode? What am I missing?
Well, here, let me take it real quick. So, one of the things that another major game difference that we didn't get in, like we didn't get a cinematic for this in the game, is the opening to this episode. Like the first one, like the first episode, there's like a crazy opening to this as well. And it's when the first breakout like really happens.
It's in Jakarta. Yep.
Yeah, it's in Jakarta. It's the thing that they heard over the radio in the first episode. So we just got it from that end. Like, I mean, so the scientist there kind of figures it all out. Like she pulls out tendrils from that mouth. I'm like, ugh, gross. What I thought was just super haunting about this is that like the military guy is like, hey, like how do we stop this? Like, can we start putting together a vaccine? Like, what do we do? And the only thing that she has to say is like, you need to bomb the city.
Bomb everywhere.
Yeah, you need to bomb the city, bomb it everywhere, and bomb all the people in it. Everyone that's innocent, you need to bomb everybody. And I'm like, damn, like like the scientist is telling like the military guy to just bomb everything. And the look on his face, like he was just horrified. Pretty much everything that was coming out of her mouth, I was like, damn, like this shit is fucking nuts. It's like kill innocent people because this shit is about to ruin the world. I'm like, wow.
It's also very sad as a viewer to almost agree with it.
Yeah, it's like
you're like, what else do you do?
It's like it's impossible. Like you lost the people that bit each other. So it's like what's going on?
I think the question also came up in the first two episodes too. You know, like the whole who got bit first thing, or like how did the first infected get bit, which gets explained loosely. No, it's fucking terrifying. It almost takes the intro of the first episode, but just like magnifies it by tenfold. Mm-hmm. Because like once in the first episode in that intro, when the scientists basically said there's nothing you can do, like the whole crowd in the audience is just like terrified. And then you go to this one and that soldier is just like, okay, this is not what you want to hear by like a world renowned, like mycologist, right? That knows everything about fucking fungus.
What makes this opening scene even more heartbreaking is that she just says like, can you just let me go? I want to be with my family now. If the military guys decide to go through with this or not, it's, you know, gets you ready for how bleak the world is moving forward from there. I'm just like, damn, the show's fucking nuts. And like right after that, like the music and the intro for the most part hits like just at the right moment. That's the other thing about this show. Love the score. It's the same composer from the game, Gustavo Santa. I forget his last name, but it's just such simple acoustic guitar. It's just like very melancholy, and it's just like it doesn't need to be more complicated, you know. So love the music in this. But yeah, Infected, very good episode. The ending, we already talked about it. There is one other scene in this that is ripped straight from the game that I just want to briefly bring up. It's when Joel and Ellie are up on like a rooftop, and they're both like looking into the sunset. Very pretty shot. And Joel's just like, well, is that everything you hope for? And then she's like, oh, well, the jury's still out, but like, you know, what does she say? Jury's still out, but can't beat that view or something like that. That's ripped straight from the game. Love that scene. But yeah, no, that kind of just like, it's like what you were saying earlier. It's like, this is like the beginning of their relationship or whatever.
Yeah. It's also like the beginning or the continuation of perspectives about this world from the eyes of a child, like a kid, and from an adult, especially an adult that was in Operation Desert
broken
Storm.
Adult.
Yeah. And is lost his daughter, you know, and it's,
yeah,
the more that you kind of toggle back and forth between the two is just like awesome, especially when you hear Joel like kind of reference to it. Like it's always easier for your kid, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love that. But okay, episode 3. Let's move on to episode 3.
Let's go.
Title Long Time. Let's talk about this. And let me just preface this for you real quick. None of this is in the game at all. Like Bill is a character in the game, so is Frank, and I'll just go out and say the main difference right now. We just don't get the story. Like when we first meet Bill in the game, he's like the same crazy dude. Like he's like a prepper or a survivalist or whatever the fuck. He still has his own little town. Like it's all stacked up and like bordered off with like stacked cars, which we do get a shot of in the show. But the main difference is that we first meet in the game, you meet Frank, but he's already dead.
Yeah,
and
I heard that.
The reason why he's dead in the show, like obviously there was a history there between Bill and Frank, but what happens to Frank in the game is that he gets infected, and instead of he pretty much like knows he gets infected, so he just hangs himself. He kills himself, and that's where you find him. You find like a hanging body in a house. And there's a little note left behind. This is pretty funny because there's also a note in the show. He leaves this note. Like the note is written in a way in the game where Bill and Frank were kind of like at odds with each other. But I think it's kind of obvious that they were like friends or even partners, quote unquote partners, because that's what Bill says in the game. He's like, oh yeah, he was my partner in all this. Yeah. And it's just so funny to like when this first episode came out, the discourse online was hilarious because like a lot of people were like, no, this wasn't happening in the game. It's like, nah, shut up, dude. Like, like it was very obvious that fucking Bill was gay in the game. And
it's
like
2023. If you say partner, like,
yeah,
you could be a straight couple, you could be a gay couple, like, but it still is a reference to like, I don't want to like label my relationship as like boyfriend, girlfriend, like, you know, like it's more of a modern term.
I saw someone tweet online that was like tweeting about the discourse and like not liking the change. And they're like, well, no, like he could have said partner in the game in like the cool cowboy way. And I was like, dude, you fucking moron. This episode itself, it's just so like just being able to find this in such a bleak world. Bill and Frank being able to find each other. That's like the main takeaway for me is that being able to like live out 20 plus years with somebody like this when the world is shitty is just
beautiful.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And I mean, the way the episode starts out, like even before he meets Frank, this dude's just living his best life. Like this is the most ideal situation for like any survivalist or like prepper ever. It's like, oh fuck, the world's gone to shit. Like the world's my playground.
My time
now.
to shine, bitch.
Yeah, this is my time. And like they do that in the episode so well because like it's like upbeat music. He's like going to the Home Depot to like get everything he needs. Like he was literally thriving when the world is so shitty. No, like I love that. It was awesome. And the fact that he just gets to fucking grow all his own food, like make all like the best meals just for himself was just so funny. And Nick Offerman just does this role so well.
Destroys it.
Something I'd never seen from Nick Offerman. I mean, like I've watched my fair share of like Parks and Rec and stuff.
That's all I see when I see him is Parks and Rec, and I'm like, what the fuck?
The whole Ron Swanson thing, I think it's like, you know, you see kind of like that grumpiness and stuff, but it works. But yeah, so what did you think about this episode?
I fucking love it, man. Him just going on a rampage, like watching the camera super carefully in the beginning of the episode, like waiting for shit to cool down, everybody leaving, and then, you know, the survivalist in him just fucking going to town, like putting all the fences up, putting all the traps out, going to Home Depot, getting all the supplies he needs, getting all the fuel, having the backup generator up and running with all the fuel. Like he's got a car. Nobody has a fucking car these days. It's amazing. And just the modernism that they throw into this and how they kind of, like not a lot of this, like the whole relationship between Bill and Frank was in the game. Like I love how they chose to like focus on this to make it more modern. The most fucking hilarious part of this is like, there's like this shot where it's kind of going like to where his like armory is, where he has all the guns on the wall, I had this feeling that he was gay, but it wasn't confirmed yet until like,
Piano scene.
piano scene. So like a little bit before midway through the episode. But when it's like this shot that's like kind of like slowly going down into the armory, and there's a "Don't tread on me" sign or like flag,
Mm-hmm.
and then you find out he's gay, and he's also like a 9/11 conspiracy theorist, and he's also a virgin. Is just like, oh my god, it's fucking gold, dude.
I think it's so funny that they decide to make him in this way, like a dude with like "Don't tread on me" flags. I think it just made just so many of like it pissed off so many of the right people.
I hope so.
That's just hilarious.
And like
they were probably crying seeing this. Like, how dare you do this? Like,
it's also very fun because I was watching this for some parts of the episode as like a video game, as if I was like playing him. And just like driving off to fucking like Home Depot and like setting up all your traps and shit. And it was just like this high moment in the game where you felt like super powerful. I don't think that's in the game. That's probably not in the game. Like you never play as another character, right?
No, you never play as Bill.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
You just meet Bill.
But I like how they kind of fast forwarded to meeting Joel, Tess, and Ellie.
Well, just Joel and Tess.
Because I don't know, there's like that is one of those moments where I'm like, okay, this is for sure a video game. And this was the first time where I was like, okay, after this episode, any relationship that Joel come into contact with, everybody just dies. So I'm not going to get emotionally attached to fucking any side characters anymore. But no, I mean, the whole like romance between Bill and Frank, it's fucking beautiful. Especially when it gets like when they're much older, like the strawberry scene, it's like so romantic. And the fact that Bill, what happens to Frank though? Like what actually happens to him? Is he just old,
like,
or does he have like?
I think it's cancer.
Is it cancer?
He developed cancer. Yeah.
Them being able to live out this romantic story until they're old and dying like normal people is like so like refreshing, but also like so fucking tragic at the same time, especially considering like Frank is like, this is how I want to die. It's like, nope, you're going to overdose the fuck out of me, and we're going to go to the boutique shop, and we're going to do this, and we're going to dress
cook
up.
Me my favorite food.
Yeah,
it's really good stuff.
You know that feeling in the back of your throat where you're trying to hold back your tears, but you're like trembling in the back of your throat. Like that was like the entire episode for me.
I'll tell you this. In the game, you meet Bill. Bill survives after you meet him, and then, like, you go meet Bill, and then you do all your stuff. Frank is dead, but Bill doesn't die, and that's like another major difference from the game that I think works for it. And I don't think there was any other way that you could have handled this. But yeah, no, just seeing them have that final dinner together, and then he gives Frank the pills.
Everything.
With the wine, and then he chugs it, and then Bill also chugs it because there are already pills in the bottle. And then Bill says that line, he's like, look, I'm old, I'm satisfied, and you are my purpose. I was like, fuck.
And it's like Frank says it, he's like, he basically says like, I fucking hate you, but that's like one of the most romantic things I've ever fucking heard.
Yeah, it's like at that point, it's like, well, it's too late. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't approve yet. And then they just go to sleep. And it's like, the most ideal death in that world,
Yeah.
But yeah, so a common thing that's happening throughout this show is like in the game, it's very much exploring Joel and Ellie's relationship, and it's just very much through their lens. And you kind of just meet all these side characters along the way. Like even in episode 5, which we'll talk about, like you meet Bill for like a quick, couple missions or whatever. They're just giving like all the side characters from the game. They're giving them their own like stories and stuff like that, which I think is really cool. And some might even call this like a filler episode because most of the screen time is Bill and Frank. Like Joel and Ellie like open up the episode and then they close it together. But I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, the main thing about this show is, I'm getting a little corny here, but it's all about like refinding that connection with people and finding like humanity again after all this stuff has happened,
Yeah.
And it's a very fitting thing for the times. And I mean, Bill and Frank having this type of relationship is just great stuff.
It's awesome to see, because Bill was so, not even towards Joel, but just didn't trust anybody. I mean, it's the survivalist in him. But that brief conversation that they had at the dinner table outside during the day, Joel said the right things to make Bill break down a little bit, to the point where once Joel and Ellie go back there, he just left everything to Joel and Ellie. And it was like pretty much everything they needed: car, guns, ammo, sulfuric acid, which is used to make batteries. But yeah, episode 3 is 5 out of 5 for me, 100%.
Yeah. And the episode ends, Bill and Frank had passed, and I just want to bring up the letter again. Remember how I said earlier how Frank leaves the note to Bill in the game, and it kind of seems like they're at odds with each other. So the note that is in the show, I got like the same vibe, just not like Frank wrote the bitter note to Bill, but then Bill wrote the bitter note to Joel, even though they kind of saw eye to eye in a way to whomever, but probably Joel.
Yeah. It's still there, but it's just like different context.
Yeah, just slightly different context. And I will say too, like one of my favorite things about the game is reading the random notes that are everywhere. More on that later. But okay, so yeah, beautiful episode, beautiful story. Do you have anything else on Long, Long Time?
More romantic than anything John Legend has ever written, and more tragic than Bambi's mom dying.
Yo!
Sorry, I stole that straight from a beat, man. You know which one I'm talking about.
All right, then. So episode 4, Please Hold My Hand. I'll be honest with you. This is probably, I thought it was a good episode, but probably my least favorite up until like this point. Like of episodes 1 through 4, this is probably my least favorite one. A very important episode, because this is where we start to get into like the human versus human conflict. There's this group called the Hunters, and Joel even talks about being a hunter himself, because like, he and another group of people, they would kill folks for like supplies and shit. I think the main takeaway from this is Joel and Ellie's relationship, like that bond is getting formed more in this. Like when it comes down to like the corny jokes, that last moment at the very end when like Joel finally decides to like laugh at a joke and they're both like laughing together, just very touching. I didn't really get too much from this episode besides like the Joel and Ellie dynamic. I think that's the main thing that I think everyone should kind of focus on here. He teaches her how to use a gun. Very, very intense moment at the beginning of this episode where Ellie like gets her first like clicker kill. It's just like a clicker that's like stuck under the rebel and stuff like that. I do want to mention though, something that I forgot to mention in episode 2, the weapons in the game. So I don't know if you remember Joel like stashing away like a straight up like M4 rifle. You don't get one of those this early in the game. And I'll be honest with you, it's like I would have loved like an automatic rifle like that, like this early in the game. Like you don't get that shit until the very end. like why are the creators disrespecting source material this much by putting like end game materials into the beginning? I'm totally joking. I'm not serious. But I do think that they're disrespecting the source material big time is the fact that there's not enough like sneaking around, and there's not enough of Joel dying from clickers and me being upset and almost throwing my controller across the room because I can't get past the spot. But no, like there's also not enough Joel using bricks and beer bottles to distract clickers and to use them as weapons. But honestly though, I do hope that they, like in all seriousness, I hope they do use like bricks and beer bottles at some point, because that's just a hilarious Easter egg, because that's like one of your main weapons in the game is like random bricks and beer bottles just to distract people. It's kind of funny. I don't know. I mean, like there's some interesting action in this. Like I said, that's not like what you mainly want to take away from this episode. What did you think about episode 4?
The shootout towards the beginning is pretty intense. I just feel like thinking about the show as if I'm playing the video game through the show and not necessarily playing like the game itself. But I'm like, okay, I just got a car in the previous mission, and now I just like lose the car in the next mission. Like, I like, what the fuck, dude? I felt like I fell on top of the world. The whole reason I'm here is because I wanted to get a fucking battery to juice a car up, and now I get a car, and now it's just fucking gone. No, and
do all this work trying to siphon gas and shit.
Yeah, the whole shootout scene I thought was pretty intense. Him putting the M4 away, I was like, are you sure there aren't bullets out there somewhere that you could find for the M4? Like, you're really just gonna like stash this away, or seems like a pretty good weapon to just like carry, just in case you come across some ammunition. But no, I love the road trip scenes. The driving scenes.
Those are good.
Those are pretty good. Two totally different generations trying to survive each other and also the world, and also grow a relationship with each other. And like I think the first thing that kind of breaks Joel out is like the music and the tapes that Ellie finds in the car, because it was some music that Joel really, really, really liked. Obviously,
Cash, I think.
Obviously, Ellie has no idea like what kind of music it is, or like never heard it before, probably has no real appreciation for it, but appreciates the fact that Joel's kind of lightening up a little bit. I guess it's just another one of those points. Like if I'm talking about like them driving, like doing long drives together, where like you kind of feel like you're going back a little bit into normal society, where they're just like doing like a long road trip, but then you pull over into like a gas station or something, and there's just like 20 cars on the side of the road that are growing fucking grass out of them, and you're like, oh fuck, all right, we're back in this bleak fucking world. Okay, there is no happiness in this world. Fuck.
There's no happiness.
I mean, it's just true. It's just how it feels, man. Like I feel like you go back and forth a lot.
No, they're really, it's so bleak. You just can't. Yeah, no happiness is a great way to put it.
Well, and it's like
I'm just watching this video because I tweeted this thing out earlier where like I captioned it as like starting a new episode and finishing it every damn week, and it's just a video of Pedro Pascal like laughing like maniacally, and then he like transitions into like just crying. You might have seen this video.
Yep.
And that's how I feel every week. It's just like,
it's
like, yeah, fuck yeah. I'm like watching a new episode of Last of Us, but then like by the end, I'm like, fuck, that shit was tragic.
God damn. It's like you said, it's just like you said, talking about the previous episode. It's like the human element that's like so much more important in this world than it is in the world that we have now. And it's like, just makes you think like we should trust each other more, even in our modern world where there isn't a fucking zombie fucking fungus pandemic.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's so well done. Like if I'm comparing it to like The Walking Dead, and this is definitely a tangent, but like if I'm comparing it to something like The Walking Dead, you don't really feel like it's a possibility. Like that kind of world is a possibility. You know what I mean? This does it so well to the point where you're like, oh shit, like, yeah, this could definitely happen. Even if it's not from a fungus, it could be from something else,
Nice. Something that I forgot to mention when I was talking about the episode. There's another 1-for-1 like shot-for-shot remake of a cinematic from the game, and this was my favorite. I loved seeing this. It's when they're driving in the car, like Ellie finds like a nude magazine, but it's like I think it's like a gentleman's nude magazine. By the way, in the game, like folks weren't thinking that Bill was like gay in the game, but I think they must have forgot about this scene because like she finds this magazine, like the gentleman's magazine, and there's clearly like a shirtless dude on the front. And like she does the whole thing where it's like she turns it sideways and then she's like, whoa, like how does he even walk around with that thing? And like, oh, I love this. Like, and then she was like, oh, wait, hold on, why are these pages all stuck together? And then he was like, what? And then she's like, I'm just fucking with you. Ellie in the game and Ellie in the show throw the magazine out the window and they both say, bye-bye, dude. It's perfect. Loved this scene. This is my favorite. Like, This is probably like my favorite shot for shot. Actually, no, I should take that back. We need to talk about episode 5. So yeah, episode 4, Please Hold My Hand. Very good, exploring Ellie and Joel's relationship, or at least like strengthening it a little more. Building the bond is like the main thing about this episode, which I think is important. Now, episode 5, we are fresh off episode 5. Episode 5 titled Endure and Survive. Actually, no, wait. One more thing on episode 4. The episode ends, we're introduced to Sam and Henry, and this is literally like the last shot. It's literally like the last like 10, 15 seconds. We're introduced to Sam and Henry, who are now in episode 5. We're fresh off episode 5. I just watched it once. I'm sure you only watched it once. I haven't had another chance to watch it because this is literally the same. We're recording this on the same day it came out. I thought this was interesting. Actually, no, wait. Let me start with you. What did you think about this episode? Because I know everything about Sam and Henry, and
it picks up directly where episode 4 left off.
Not exactly though. Not exactly, because the episode starts. I think it's actually exactly 10 days before episode 4. Like, something we didn't talk about from episode 4 is that rebellion group or whatever, beefing with Fedra, and that crazy lady, I forget what her name is,
Kathleen.
But they killed Kathleen. Yeah, she kills that old guy that old guy is not giving her the information that she wants. And then we find out in episode 5 that old guy was helping Sam and Henry. I think in episode 4 they find the attic that they were staying in episode 5. That's a big part of it we didn't really talk about. But anyways,
biggest highlights for me, and I know this is not in the game, seeing this kind of world through a deaf kid. I know he's not deaf in the game.
Yeah, he very much is vocal in the game.
Yeah, even more tragic. Having to deal with this kind of world as a kid is one thing, but having to deal with it with one less sense is a total other ballgame. And I will say, so the ending of episode 4, I knew that Sam and Henry, they weren't going to kill. Like, it wasn't going to be like some sort of stick up, like, give me all your shit, like, obviously they were following them. It's super late at night. If they were going to stick them up for their shit, it would have been different timing, different place, maybe. But how it all pans out, I really do like it. I love that throughout the episode, Ellie has a friend and develops a relationship with a kid that's close to her age. I think Ellie's 10 and Sam's 8.
I think
8?
Ellie is like 14.
Oh, she's 14.
Or maybe
she's
12.
14. Something like that. Which is definitely not 10. And just all the scenes throughout this episode where it's like them bonding and like trying to be normal kids. Again, very similar. And it's very similar to episode 3, where it's like you get this glimpse of like normality where it's just very short-lived and is fleeting almost. I also love the flashback where Sam and Henry were actually watching the whole shootout scene from like the building across the street, and that's how they followed them. I'm not gonna lie, the whole very beginning of this episode is on some violent shit. I think it's the most violent scene that we've got so far. It's literally like this revolutionary movement just hanging, stabbing, bashing Fedra agents over the head with whatever they have. Like, it's brutal. Definitely hooks you in a kind of sick way to this episode. But as the story progresses with them throughout this episode, I'm just like, dude, I cannot stand this Kathleen chick. Fucking hate her.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind like a character that has like a quick downfall, but I just think it was a poor performance. Or I was not like, I'm kind of like jumping back and forth between the whole episode, but when they go to the scene where she's in the room that she grew up in, and there was supposed to be like all this like sympathy built up around her, and like you're supposed to feel bad for her. I got nothing of that.
Yeah, no.
Nothing.
Didn't care.
Zero.
Didn't care.
And I don't know if it's a poor acting performance, poorly written script, bad actress, but I just like wasn't hooked into it. And
I think it's the way that she's written. And because this episode does a weird thing, because like to me in the game, it's like, okay, no, I'm not fucking with Fedra, but then there's this group of rebellions that I'm like, yeah, no, I kind of fuck with the rebellion because I don't like Fedra, but I don't like this group either. It's like the collaborators, I'm on Sam and Henry's side. It's like I don't care about what this lady wants. If anything, these guys are assholes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like it's one thing to be, you're on the spectrum when it comes to like not being Fedra, right? In Kansas City, like this whole revolutionary movement is like as extreme as you possibly can get. They like in the beginning they were like towing a body like
Full of
car
knives.
that just had knives just like fucking stuck in it. I'm like, okay.
Fucking hanging people and like just straight up executing these guys. I'm like, damn, this is gnarly.
And
you know?
it's like
it's like I texted you, like this is like some Game of Thrones type violence.
Yeah. But I still do like the whole concept that like a revolutionary movement does take over federal government within a QZ. Like I like that, but just the whole how extreme it is and the leader just being kind of towards the end of the episode, love it. The whole sniper's nest scene, I think that's great. And as that progresses, it's fucking crazy. You know, you got the boss coming out. Like, I didn't expect that shit at all with the car sinking into the fucking ground and all the infected coming out and the fucking like. Does that happen in the game? Is there like a infected boss you have to kill?
Yeah, so there it's not a boss. And I'll be honest with you, there aren't really bosses in the game.
That makes sense though.
But I do here, let me just backtrack just a little bit because this is something I want to talk about. This is something that's almost like a 1-for-1 remake from the game and to the show. The sniper sequence. The only difference here, like literally, I did exactly what Joel did in the show to get rid of the sniper. I snuck around the side of the buildings, snuck into the building, and then I met up with the sniper. I fucking shot him. There are more like humans that you have to like pick off before you get to the sniper. And the sniper sequence in the game, it takes place during the day. This takes place during at night. And the game is tricky because like I thought I could be cool and just because at this point in the game I had a sniper rifle. I was like, well, I'll just pick a good spot and like snipe this guy. You know, I'll snipe the sniper. But like somehow it's like when you point your gun towards the sniper, there's like a bright light that shines in your face.
It's a gleam.
You can't shoot him down like that. You have to sneak up on him. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. But I like the difference in the show. He kills the guy, I guess, a sniper rifle, and then the thing about all the zombies being underground, they talked about that earlier in the episode, right? They said like all the Fedra agents had like funneled all the infected underground, and this is where they all just popped up. So in the game, there are like 5 different types of infected zombies or infected humans that you can run into. There's a clicker where we saw a proper clicker in, I think, episode 2.
Like their full head is taken over.
Their full head is just like a full-on mushroom. And then there's like a stalker or a runner where they still look like kind of human and like maybe like half their face is a mushroom. And then there are these big ass things that you saw in this one. It's called a bloater. And they had been infected for like years.
Day one.
At that point, it's just like a full-on body of just like straight up infected, gnarly shit. Like when you're looking at them, it's just like, oh, well, this is just like someone that was infected. That's like, they're just like a heavier set human being. But no, it's just like, they're full on like fucking terrifying. And, they're really hard to kill in the game.
Yeah. It's like clearly from the show too.
You try to take one of these things down, like in the game, resources are so hard to come by. And that's one of the things I like about it because it's like full on straight up like survival shit. You have to like create, pretty much you have like a low amount of everything. Like you can't have like an unlimited amount of ammo, even though in the show you kind of have an unlimited amount of ammo. Like Joel was kind of like out here like firing off like 50
pumping
rounds
off
of a sniper rifle. You know? Yeah. But in the game, it's like you really have to savor that shit. Like you maybe only have like 20 rounds at most of like a little handgun, or you have like 10 rounds at most of like a sniper rifle or something. But like you get like little grenades and shit, you get like Molotov cocktails, and by the time I take one of these things down, I'm out of like little bombs and I'm out of Molotov cocktails and I'm like out of like shotgun rounds. Like it literally takes so much to bring one of these things down. It's
not
ridiculous. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do and like try to kill this thing. Yeah, I hope Joel gets a flamethrower in the show. That'd be crazy because you get a flamethrower in the game.
Sick. Dude, also this scene, I'm not gonna lie, felt so video game to me because it was like when they got pinned down behind the car and like that, like when the scene first starts, like Joel's like, nah, his aim shit. For some reason, it just like Call of Duty memes like clicked in my head. And he's like, nah, I'm gonna go around. You guys stay here. And he like sneaks around, whatever, finds out it's like some old guy with a sniper, and it just makes me think that it's like we're playing Call of Duty and this guy's up in the sniper's nest, and you just run up there and shit on this old guy who just got off of fucking work after, a 12-hour shift and is just trying to like play some fucking Call of Duty. You just murder the guy, dude. Like, I don't know. And then he goes up to the sniper's nest and just starts to go boom, headshot, boom, headshot, boom, headshot. Super fucking
very video game too.
Yeah, super.
Yeah, no, this sequence was fucking terrifying.
Insane.
It just reminded me of like The Long Night, like how they were just overrun by just so many zombies. What a scene. But it ended up working out. They all kind of survived it. And I knew this was coming. The Sam and Henry arc, you saw it. Like no spoilers here, but if you haven't watched, spoilers for episode 5, but Sam and Henry in the game ends very much in a similar fashion. I think it's Sam is the younger brother, and he gets infected, and he and Ellie have just a very sad exchange. It's like, are you scared? Like, are you still you if you turn into a monster? That's very much from the game as well, except like it wasn't written out. Like they actually had a conversation. The main difference here, she didn't try using her blood to try to cure him. Yeah. That wasn't in the game. And I was, at first when I saw that, I was like, wait, is this going to be a thing? Like, is this going to be like a difference here? Like, are they actually going to do this? And then sure enough. And in the game, it is pretty tragic to watch. Like, in the game, I think it is like a little creepier because she like wakes up in the morning. Like, they don't ask to like stay up. Like, they don't try to stay up all night in the game. I think they just kind of go to sleep. But Ellie wakes up and then he's just like, he's standing up. He's not sitting down. He's like standing in a corner and just like kind of like twitching his shoulder or whatever.
Well, the twitch gives it away.
The twitch is like very creepy. And then she's like, oh, like, Sam, you all right? And then she charges at her. And then that's very much the way where the game and the show link up. But in the show, though, I thought it was like, I thought Bella Ramsey did really well here. Just being in such shock, seeing Henry shoot himself. Immediately, like after that happened, like tears fell. Yeah, no, it was like very tragic. It was so sad in the game to watch, like because I saw it in the game first, and I was like, oh fuck.
And the tears don't start falling. Like, I feel like Ellie's a little bit shocked in the show when she sees Henry shoot Sam, but it's almost like she kind of gets it, like, all right, he's infected, like that's understandable. But then, like, once he fucking kills himself, it's like, that's where the fucking teardrops start falling, man. And like, I'm almost about to fucking cry, man. It's so fucking sad, man. Especially he had leukemia. Like, oh my God. Like, it's just, he has leukemia and he's deaf. Like, oh my God. And then he gets infected.
And I don't know that in the game, I don't think she knew. I don't think
that
she
he had
knew
leukemia.
That he was
infected. Oh,
I could be wrong though. But I don't think so. I don't think she knew that he was infected.
See, I wasn't expecting it to go this way though. Like, so Sam reveals that like he's infected, right? I thought it was going to be more of a thing where it was like, okay, they wake up in the morning, they start traveling a little bit more, and then for some random reason or like some incident, Joel finds out that Sam's infected, and then Joel's put into the situation where he's like wants to kill Sam. And it's this whole like, crazy shootout. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't put the gun down. Blah, blah, blah. I did not expect Sam to like turn that quick, just overnight.
Honestly, yeah, no. When I knew that Sam and Henry were being introduced, I didn't think their story would end in this episode.
Yeah,
I knew it had to come to an end eventually. I thought it would be like one more episode.
I definitely heard it's fleshed out a lot more in the game.
Actually, no, I don't. I would disagree with that because you kind of meet Sam and Henry. Because the whole opening, like the 10 days prior to Sam and Henry meeting Joel and Ellie, all that wasn't in the game. Yeah, no, them hiding out in the attic and all that stuff wasn't in the game. Interesting stuff, for sure.
I think just kind of put a nail in the coffin for the end of the episode. It's like they do the whole like burial scene, right? Like Joel's like digging graves for them. They dig graves for them. And then Ellie's just like, all right, I've said my piece. I'm moving on faster than you are. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like she's starting to become a little bit numb to the world around her.
World, yeah.
And Joel's softening up. It's like the roles are kind of reversing a little bit. God, I don't have enough adjectives to describe like this whole world and like the relationships between Joel and Ellie and like all the side characters. Like it's fucking spot on though. I love the show.
Yeah. You're totally right though. That's what this show, like I mentioned earlier, is doing. It's shining more light on the side characters. I guess one last thing that I didn't really mention, but I just want to bring up briefly is another almost like a 1-for-1 shot from the game to the show is the little community that they find in the tunnels. I guess the main difference there is that the community or the little town that's in the tunnels is much bigger. It's not really just this like one little room. There's like a lot more rooms. Like it's actually like a community. No one's alive there. Like everyone's dead. But like there's like multiple rooms that you can explore. But the one thing that is like ripped straight from the game, I don't know if you caught this. It's very brief, but it's like a little picture drawing. Like it's of two guys and they're both dressed in blue. And then like one of them is named Ish and the other one is like something else. And it's like
our heroes
it's like our heroes or our protectors or whatever. Yeah. That drawing is straight up from the game. It's crazy because like I kept on mentioning earlier how I read so many notes. These were the notes that I read the most in the game because you find like you pretty much follow Ish writing notes all throughout the game. Well, not all throughout the game, but like throughout this compound or whatever. And I'm just like, damn, this story is like really creepy. You know? Yeah. Like just leading up to the final death and all of it. And I'm like, damn.
I mean, just having a community that's like underground in this kind of era, like there's so much shit that can just go wrong and so creepy. And yeah, I hope they throw, I hope they throw more notes in the show. Like just like little, even if it's not like necessarily somebody in the show, like picking up a note, but just like making a nod to some of those notes you pick up. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. But yeah, no, this episode, the battle is fucking crazy. Sam and Henry is tragic. Joel and Ellie, like Ellie kind of being more hardened to the world. Yeah, no, it's just awesome. And I do worry though, because this is episode 5 and there are only 9 episodes. And I feel like they have a lot to cover in 4 episodes. And I'm curious if some of the first game will just bleed into, well, not bleed, but like some of the story from the first game will continue into season 2 because it is confirmed for season 2. But I know that they want to adapt part 2 of the game for season 2. So I'm just like, I feel like there are a lot of big moments from the story in the game that you have to touch on in this season. Watching the preview for the next episode where Joel meets his brother is interesting because he lives in like the setting that they're in is like a snow town. Like everything's very snowy. And this is like towards like, you're pretty much reaching the end game in the video game. Like you're pretty much like in the final act when you're in the snow. You haven't even talked about like one of the bigger players yet in the game, or we haven't seen one of the bigger players yet in the game, but I guess we'll see. I can see it happening in episode like 6 or 7 that they bring in this guy. I guess we'll see how it goes. Anything else from episode 5 for you?
Nothing else other than I'm ready for the next episode, man.
You're in. You're in.
I'm in. Yeah, it's been a while since I watched the show, other than anything in Star Wars that I was like, I'm here for this, man.
I will mention one more thing. That Perry guy, the one that had like the super long hair and like the big beard with the
M4.
Crazy, and the M4.
Yeah. He's badass. He looks badass.
He looks badass, and it was just so interesting listening to him talk in this episode because he is Joel's brother in the game. Like that actor portrays Joel's brother in the game, and he talks and sounds just like him. So just like this is throwing me off so much because he like the voice I hear it in my head. It's like, oh yeah, no, that's fucking that's Tommy in the game. But he's not obviously he's not his brother in the show. That Joel's brother in the show is portrayed by a different actor that we'll meet in episode 6. But yeah, so I just thought that was kind of funny. But okay, that'll do it for episode 112. So if y'all made it this far, thank you so much for listening to our Last of Us mid-season recap. Tune into episode 113. Talk about the Bad Batch. Till then, be sure to follow us on our socials: Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, YouTube. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you folks next time. So peace.
Endure and survive.
Endure and survive. Damn.